I think we can hold ourselves back with these ideas of perfection.
To the outside world, everything's moving very smoothly, but really we are just sprinting all the time, trying to solve problems and trying to work around things.
You're looking for a leader somewhere else instead of realizing that your leaders are right here among you.
We didn't think that there was enough representation of us actually owning, and by us I mean Black women owning the industry and taking up our space. And I think we wanted to sort of turn the conversation and be the ones to direct where the industry is. The industry that Black women spend Black people spend $500 billion on annually to benefit our own communities.
I started Avocado after pretty good career in investment banking, but I wanted more of a work-life balance, and I was very interested in holistic health and hair care and natural products. I was frustrated with some products that were available on the market at the time. I wanted things to be pure, to be healthy, and to be balanced.
The Afro Hair and Skin Company basically started when I'd moved to Sweden in 2005 and found myself in a situation where I couldn't access Black products for my hair. So I started to research just online, just see what my options were in terms of ingredients that I could potentially be using. And I think it sort of accidentally stumbled upon a sort of natural hair community.
I haven't always thought of myself as a business person. I remember when I was younger, my dad actually would tell me, you're gonna have your own business. And I thought that it was just, you know, like him projecting something on me, because I was just like, no, I'm happy to be an employee forever, you know, like there's room to be successful, and I still think that. But I think what I didn't see then is that I like crafting, you know, I'm a crafter and I get bored quickly. But I've managed to really create something for myself that takes this into consideration, the fact that I like to do different things. I have my personal brand, Freddie Harold, and I have Big Hair No Care.
My career path has been quite interesting. In addition to banking and IT and, you know, aromatherapy and such like, I was once a landscape gardener. I used to plant grass. That was quite interesting. I've been a cleaner, cleaning people's toilets. Sometimes you just take a job because you have to pay the rent. You know, you got to do what you got to do. But when you find something that you absolutely love, you have fun doing it, then it's not so much feeling like work. It's very, very easy to get discouraged. There are a lot of small businesses out there. There are a lot of natural hair product businesses. You just need to be smart. And when I say smart, I don't mean that you need to be a genius. I'm not talking about that. I mean that you need to understand what you can and what you cannot do. So even if you think that you are not business-minded, find somebody who is and delegate. But then it goes back again to drive and commitment. You cannot give up at the first no. You cannot give up the first time you fail. If you love it, you have to keep going for it. If it is really your passion, you just can't stop.
I take a lot of rash decisions, and that sometimes works for me. Sometimes it doesn't, but if it doesn't, I've learned a lesson. Are you someone who really enjoys their comfort zone? Because some people really do, and there's nothing wrong with it. But then some people really love a challenge, but ask yourself, how bad can this get? And then when it's about taking a decision to do it, ask yourself, what do I have to lose? When you have this voice constantly telling you you're not good enough, you're not going to make it, this is not a good setup. So if that's how you are, it's fine. I think majority of us have this negative voice in our head. But it's also, how much are you willing to invest in that relationship with yourself?
I don't think I've considered myself an entrepreneur until recently, just because it's something that's now being directed at me. I think a lot of people want perfection from the start and they want it all happening from the start, but I think the reality is that you do have to take on, a side job. I think we can hold ourselves back with these ideas of perfection, and it kind of creates a kind of false sense of security where sort of constantly picking at the details makes you feel like you're doing something, but actually you're stopping yourself from doing something. I would say, if it's something that you believe in and if it's something that kind of lights you up, then I think you owe it to yourself to try.
I didn't think that anybody was doing what we are trying to achieve, which is to use something which Black people in general spend a lot of money on and reinvest some of that money back into the community.
You have to understand that there's going to be good days and bad days. Not everything's going to go to plan, and you have to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D.
Things go wrong all the time, and it's about problem solving. So to the outside world, everything's moving very smoothly, but really we are just sprinting all the time, trying to solve problems and trying to work around things and trying to negotiate with people. And so it's about having thick skin and just being resilient.
I think that the shops that we have on the high street, my issue with them is that even if they're going to stock organic products, that's only because it's trendy. They don't really care about the curation because they will have those organic shampoos, but then next to them, they're going to have bleaching lotions, which I don't think should be on shelves anymore. I find it really hard to go and find products that I want to use for my hair, especially when you go into these shops and you go there and say, my hair is dry, what should I get? They don't really know how to help you. So when I see brands like Afro Hair and Skin Co, for example, I'm really pleased to see the women behind the brand, and the hair is like mine, and they've really thought about the products that they've created. We wanted to have a space where we could curate those beautiful brands.
I think the conventional hair shops on the high street have started to adopt more natural products. In a sense, it's good because it will hopefully widen the scope for people to be able to access those types of products should they need them. However, the education surrounding kind of natural products and the fact that there are still kind of skin bleaching creams or whatever else sort of toxic creams within that same space shows to some extent that there isn't necessarily a sort of ethical drive behind bringing natural products. It's more of a monetary drive. I think for me, I never felt great going into hair shops. A lot of the things just looked really dated and off-putting, and so that type of space wasn't my space. I wanted to recreate and redefine a different type of space rather than something that was there out of convenience. I think life is more than just convenience.
I do think that previously it was kind of like, if you want the sales, don't let people know you're Black. You stay in the background and do that, but make sure the poster that you put out is either biracial or light-skinned or not ethnic in any way whatsoever, so that you can appeal to a larger market or so you can cross over. We don't have to pander to, or we don't have to conform, or we don't have to blend in. We can be our unique selves and not have to feel like, oh gosh, this is gonna hurt my profit margin. On the other side, you've got customers now who are actively seeking to support Black-owned businesses, which may not have been such a cool thing to do in the past, but I think that we are, as a community, thinking more about the Black pound. Are we leaving legacies? If I have a business, I can pass my business on to my son. Hopefully he would increase it and make it better than it was before, and then there is wealth being retained in the community, in our family, and there's stuff being passed on so that maybe my granddaughter or the great-granddaughter that comes along has something to inherit.
Activism was something that we've been exposed to from a very young age, so I think it was quite natural for us to open a business that is primarily there to aid the community.
Both our parents are entrepreneurs. I also think it's our grandparents. And I think that's where our parents got their hustle from as well, from both sides. So we're half African and half Caribbean, and both grandparents had to come over here with basically nothing.
Our generation have the resources where most of us are like second generation immigrants. And so our parents were more concerned about the basics, like having a roof over our heads, getting an education for the children. And so we've been afforded the privilege of having those basics in place, so we can now go that extra step further and start our own businesses. And we're also looking around and thinking we need to uplift our communities.
I think it's exceptionally important to have British hair brands because we are unique. We are not Americans. We are not African Americans. We don't have their water system. We don't have access to some of the ingredients they have. Our controls here are stricter. So we actually have healthier products on our market. And this is what happened with Shea Moisture at the time when people were saying, oh, you've changed the formula. But they had to make changes to come up to the standard that your British brands were already being held to. It's almost as if a British brand would have to go to America, get big in America, and then the UK would be like, ooh, yeah, this is cool. The Black British community is awesome. And I don't think that they need to be running to another country or looking somewhere else for a blogger, for a vlogger, for a brand. I think that we are totally capable of finding those things here. I believe they already exist, but they're overlooked. You're looking for a leader somewhere else instead of realizing that your leaders are right here among you.
To be fair, we should do whatever we want with our hair. If you want to wear it natural, amazing. If not, still good. I think it's just like for each of us, it's a personal journey, like a personal experience that we have with our hair. I love my hair, I love the texture, I love the curls, but I also love volume a lot, more often than ever, like enhancing my afro with either clips or like lace front wigs. I used to wear human hair extensions. I thought it was a bit of a hassle. I couldn't maintain it to look as good. And it was really expensive. And then I started watching documentaries like Whose Hair Is It Anyway by Jamilia. And I just got really grossed out by the human hair trade. I really read into it a lot more, and I just thought, you know, like this is actually not necessary, in the sense that I think synthetic hair does a brilliant job at matching natural hair. I'm not saying, you know, like if you want really like long, silky, shiny hair, synthetic might not be the best option, but for what I'm doing, it works. We only do premium synthetic, so we don't interfere with human hair because we just think that the trade is unethical and also unregulated. So I wouldn't be able to really tell people exactly what the hair is from and or how it's been sourced. But having said that, I would never judge or actually think anything less of people who wear human hair.
I'd like to think that the natural hair movement is here to stay and that it will not be snuffed out or suppressed again. Is the natural hair movement, is it an expression of fashion or is it an expression of self? And it depends on what is actually driving that at the moment. So if it's being driven by actually, I'm Black and proud, this is my natural hair state, this is the way I shouldn't have to feel like my hair is unprofessional, I am just as good as you and you and you, it's their hair. However it is, it should be their choice. It shouldn't be policed by someone or something else. If it's just, well, okay, tired of having straight hair, let's have curly looking hair now, or let's do braids, let's do pompadours and puffs and these things, then it won't stay because fashion changes.
I think we're sort of now breaking out of our own boxes where we have maybe for a while sort of allowed ourselves to be defined by the outside, and now there's a kind of expressive kind of energy sort of moving forward. I don't know whether it's trying to connect back to our own cultures and roots, because I mean I grew up in the UK but my parents are Nigerian, and so there's always been that duality of the cultures, but there maybe has been that tendency when I was younger to sort of try to push back away from the Nigerianness and connect with the Britishness. But as you grow older, you begin to sort of rediscover the value in your own culture and the balance that that gives you.
I think that the disparity between people in the Black community who want to start their business and who actually do, I really, really think it comes down to investment money. When I left my job, I had a whole lot of savings, so I could plow that into my business. Statistically, it takes 3 years for your business to break even before you even start to turn a profit. I went through all of that. I know what that's like. It can be very scary, especially if you're a parent living on your own, to be saying, well, I'm not gonna sign on, or I'm not gonna, I'm gonna quit my job to go and work for myself or to start this business and have no guaranteed income, to have no certainty about where your next paycheck is coming from. It is very scary. It's so much easier to just say, well, I'll just continue to work here and pull that paycheck and maybe think about this idea, maybe slowly feed it, and maybe one day I'll go for it. But again, as easy as that is, it's very easy for 10 years to go by, 20, 40 years. If we had greater access to community economics, if we knew that, okay, if I'm going to start this business, I know that my buddy's going to help me and they're going to support me and they're going to patronize my business and they're going to spread the word for me and they're going to market. You'd do anything because you wouldn't be afraid to fail.
I think that we've been conditioned to think that if you fail, like your life's over, everybody's looking at you, and the safest thing and the most sensible thing is to just get a job and do a 9 to 5 and retire. And it's just normal, and you're a good human and a good citizen if you adhere to that.
Black entrepreneurs, and especially female Black entrepreneurs, face difficulties with networking. Men tend to have like an old boys network. I can just talk to him and his family and we can do this, and he might know somebody who could get me in touch with this thing and this thing and the next. I find that female entrepreneurs have to create networks. So we'd have to go and look for She Builds brands or brands of color or something else. For those of us who are mothers, we have this stigma where, well, you're the mother, you're supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z, but you're trying to go here and do this other thing. And then you have the access to finance and things like that where people think, well, what are you? I'm a mother. Why am I giving you a business loan for £15,000? Like, where's the justification for this? It's almost like you're not seen as somebody who will be a serious contender. I think I started this business a couple months after my youngest was born. And there was the balancing of, well, I've got to breastfeed this baby and I've got to change his nappy, but I also need to do some research or I need to make these orders. But I love my children and I chose to have them. So it's the thing I have to learn to balance.
Sometimes we have to source products from wholesalers that we wouldn't necessarily want to because the products are literally not available anywhere else. It can be difficult in terms of the perception that they have of us. So we're quite young, we're women. And sometimes I literally ask my dad or my uncle to go and pick up products because of the perception that I feel that these wholesalers have of me as a young Black woman. And so to make my life easier and for negotiating reasons, I tend to send sometimes a man to do those jobs when I can.
I was so insecure. I really had like a massive tendency for depression, and I think I still am a bit like that, I'm quite stressed or anxious by nature, even if I'm always smiling. These are two different things. There's so many things that we can decide to take on, and we can give ourselves a lot of objectives, thinking I want to do this, I want to achieve this, but if you want to last long term, you really need to look after yourself. It's not always easy because obviously a lot of having your own business is a strong source of stress and anxiety, and I've just had a baby. So if I'm not careful, I often get paralyzed. Like that happens a lot. Maybe like at least once a week I have days I get like so nervous or so stressed or so scared, because it's really scary, that for a few hours there's not much I can do. I mean, in terms of work, I get moments of panic. My son is 9 months old, so I've had a baby, and I've lost weight quite quickly. And like people were so quick to say, oh my God, snap back, oh my God, amazing. And like the behind the scene is that no, like I get really stressed, I get really anxious, I get really nervous. I don't look after myself so much. I also book slots to just spend time with my husband and my son without thinking about anything else. I have a journal that I do Monday and evening. I keep track of how I'm doing, to also really spot when I get into these periods where I might not be such a good friend to myself.
I'm sure that I work 16 to 20 hours a day and look after my kids as well. To maintain my sanity, I take July and August off. I go carnival as many places as I can. I also make sure that I get myself massages, stress, things that I worry about and don't realize that I'm carrying that tension, just to get that ironed right out of me. Hugs and kisses for my kids in the morning. Your day doesn't work without that.
The fact that we'd moved out of London and we'd decided to have a slower, quieter life, it's given me enough headspace to be able to create. I live by the seaside, so it's walks basically. Like I have to go out, have a walk and clear my head.
For me, it started, I was young, I was free, I could do anything. And then I think soon after that, I got made aware that I was a woman, I was a girl. So then when people make you aware of that, it comes with all of the limitations that they kind of like put on yourself and expectations as well. And then like later on, it was the fact that I was black that came as a new barrier where people are literally setting boundaries or, you know, this is how far you can get, really. You can't get further than that. And then like you get to your late teens and early 20s and you feel rubbish about yourself. You feel really insecure. You feel like you can't get to where you want. You got other people thinking they have everything figured out. And I think that's what it is, you know, that we just got robbed of our inner limitless self. But in my case, I'm tracking this bitch down.
I'm a very busy woman with a lot on my plate. I'm a very busy woman with a lot on my plate. I'm a very busy woman with a lot on my plate. So you better eat it up before I take it away. I'm a very busy woman with a lot on my plate. I'm a very busy woman with a lot on my plate. I'm a very busy woman with a lot on my plate. So you better eat it up before I take it away.